Hey guys, Fear here. Welcome back to Fear the Hand. I'm bringing you another Brawlmachine Battlereport. This time I'm running something different. I'm not playing Retribution. I'm playing Hearts of Darkness with Mortenebra 2. I'm playing up against Archie with his Karchev terrible list. So I hope you like the new recording setup. I am trying to record with OBS and then having a noise gate and noise suppression filter on. So please tell me if this is much better than the previous power reports. So yeah, let's move on to the list so I can explain things. So here are the lists. I am running Mortenebra 2 in a Hearts of Darkness theme. Her battle group consists of a Scavenger, Shrike, Slayer, and Stalker. With her army is composed of Elaine Runewood, Lord of Ash, Nicaea, Hound of the Abyss, three Scrap Thralls, a minimum unit of Griever Swarms, and Bastard Gurglepox. So I think some of you might be familiar with this list if you've read the Line of Sight articles from their Brawl Machine primers. So my reasoning here is I wanted to try something different. I've always wanted to try Cryx. Cryx was one of the choices I had to make before I started warmachine. It was either Cryx or Retribution, but the local method here had a lot of Cryx, so I opted for the least chosen or least played faction at the time. And then when the Infernals came up, I wanted to play Infernals. However, that was the time I was married. I got married and then had a kid, so no money to get the Infernals and no time to play. So with War Table, this is a perfect setup. I can try out two of the armies that I really wanted to try. Uh, do note that I have no idea playing with bricks, no idea playing other factions, so you will see a lot of mistakes probably on this battlefield. Archie is now bringing with him a Karchev the Terrible in a Jaws of the Wolf list, as I mentioned. His battle group consists of a Devastator, a Juggernaut, a Marauder, and a Grey Lord adjunct Warcaster attachment. With him, he has a squad of Widowmaker Marksmen, Old Grip, and a squad of Widowmaker Scouts, a Widowmaker Marksman, and Old Grip. Our scenario for today is binary from the Brawl Machine version 1 document. So our field consists of three forests at the lower end of the field, two acid pools, a acid cloud, a house, and two walls. So you can see them right on the field. We are playing them by rulebook, so nothing else there, nothing much else to explain. For deployment, Archie wins the roll up and chooses his table side. He picks the table side with the forests right in front of him, making use of his Jaws of the Wolf theme. He gets a free forest and puts it right on top of his flag. So that comes from his Jaws of the Wolf theme. He also gets Pathfinder for all his dudes in his battle group, if I'm not mistaken. So that gives me the first turn, and I deploy first. So I go with my usual deployment style. I put the my Mortenebra right close to the center. Beside her to the right of the screen are the scrap thralls, and then the Griever Swarms slightly behind them, with Elaine Moonwood leading the attack. And then finally on the last unit on the right hand side is the Stalker. So on Mortenebra's left, we have the Scavenger, the Slayer, and the Shrieker, along with Master Gurglepox. So the logic here is all of my units move extremely fast. A lot of them have fly. I think only Mortenebra, the Slayer, and the two solos don't have any movement tricks. So I'm thinking here with Elaine Runewood, he could probably leading the pack, taking the right hand circle zone, and Mortenebra and the Jax Master Girdle Pass contesting the lower left circle zone. And even if Archie would swing at a different side, my movement is fast enough that it wouldn't matter. I could actually go to both sides of the field relatively quick. So Archie's deployment is done in a similar fashion. He has the Karchev right behind the forest. Beside him are the Marauder and Devastator. Uh, to the right would be the Berserker, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, let me check. No, the Juggernaut is on his right. So that ends, and then his Grey Lord Adjunct right beside the the Juggernaut right beside the Juggernaut. I might be confusing things. Forgive me. So yeah, after that he has Old Grim at closing up the right flank. We then move on to advanced deployment. I put Nicaea right up 30 inches at the center of the field. For the same reason, I can go to the left or to the right with relative ease with her 12-inch Pathfinder acrobatics abilities. So with that, we move on to Archie's advanced deployment. He puts the Widowmakers into right behind the forest, close to his flag, the one that he brought, and then the Widowmaker marksman at the center of the field, right behind the cloud. So my turn one starts and I allocate 0 focus to my jacks. I power them up, 1 focus each. Morty has 7. And I begin the turn by activating and running the Stalker up to the wall on the right hand side of the upper circle zone. I do put him there because he's depth 15 and behind the wall that makes him depth 19. So even though Archie doesn't have much shooting, his Widowmaker marksman can still ping the Stalker for 1 each time. So I'm not taking any chances. I'd rather keep him alive. I want him for harassment purposes. I then run up, what do you call him? A lane up to the wall on the opposite side of the circle zone for the same purposes. He's depth 13. With the wall, he's depth 17. I don't want Archie's Widowmakers to do a lot of damage to him. I'm hoping the wall helps on that end. I then activate the Griever Swarms, and I wanted to make use of the Accumulator special rule because of the theme. So I run them up to the center of the board. I do this so that the one of the Griever Swarms is within 3 of all my remaining jacks, and the rest are at the center of the field, so I can move them up to the right or left circle zone and claim or contest anything that they might need to. I mean, they're speed 6 with fly, so they are very fast. They can ignore terrain. I can swing them to the flank that needs backup. So that was my goal there. That's why I prefer to deploy at the center or move to the center and then swing to the flank that needs my support, or swing to the flank that I can demolish. I then move to the next activation, which is Nicaea 2, and I run her up right next to the Stalker again for the wall benefit. Next up, I activate the Scrap Thralls, and I have them run up the board on the left-hand side of the field. The intent there is I need one of the Scrap Thralls to be on the flag by turn 2 so that I can claim or contest it. I mean, I could score a point if Archie doesn't contest it. You'd see my lack of experience with cryx here, as I don't really know how to use Scrap Thralls. I'm not entirely sure. If you'll see throughout the game that I'm essentially wasting the Scrap Thralls. So like I said, I don't know how to play cryx. It's the first time I'm playing with a new army. After the Scrap Thralls, I activate Shrike and use the wall beside Elaine as another way to boost up its depth 15. I then activate the Scavenger, and I have a hard time deciding where I want to place it. I know Scavenger is my biggest beater in this game, aside from the Slayer, but with Morty's feat and the Finisher special rule, I know the Scavenger is one of the units that I can use to destroy Archie's jacks. I didn't know how I wanted to place him. I don't want to place him super aggressively. I don't also want to place him in a position that he doesn't contribute to the game. So I opted to put him right next to the flag. I have a lot of line of sight. I can charge in multiple directions. So I thought that he would be perfectly fine in that position. I then activate the Slayer and move it at the center of the board. I think at this point I'm actually making a mistake with my placement, but I don't think it's too relevant at this stage. But with me placing the Slayer right behind the they call those scrap dolls, I think I'm blocking my potential charge lanes. But again, this is just looking at it from a post game standpoint. I think at this point I was hoping to use the scrap thralls to block any of Archie's potential charges. So either way, this is turn one. I might have been overthinking a lot of things, as again I am going to mention because of my lack of experience with another faction. I then activate Master Girdleclops and run him up to the center of the field. I'm trying to catch all of my light jacks within his 5-inch bubble for his dodge special ability. And then I'm trying to put him in a position where I can run him up the board and use him to channel Mortenebra's spells, especially with the Curse of Shadows, which I think is Mortenebra's bread and butter. I activate Mortenebra last, and here, again, this comes with my inexperience with cryx casters in general, and cryx as an entire army in general, although this is more of an infernal army. So yeah, either way, I move her up the board. I don't really know what spells I should cast. I cast Failsafe on the Slayer. I'm not sure if this was too early or too late. I mean, like I said, I wanted failsafe because of the extra arm buff and then the ignores crippled systems. But I'm thinking, I don't think I'll be able to charge anything by next turn. So I wasn't sure if it was a good use of the spell. So either way, after the failsafe, I cast locomotion onto the scavenger. Again, at this point, while reviewing the footage, I don't really know why I'm within the 5-inch bubble for dodge, but I moved the scavenger 3 inches closer up the board. I think it even screwed with my charge lanes, as now I'm right behind the acid cloud and I can't see anything past that. Although, sure, and by the flag, I don't also have a clear line of sight, but I think with the flag, it would have been easier for me to charge either down or to the right, depending on the situation. So this ends my activation and my turn, and I pass to Archie. Archie starts his turn with powering up all of his jacks and then activating Karchev. He casts Road to War and then Arcanatric Turbine and then moves Karchev up the board right next to the forest. He then activates the Greylord Adjunct, moves it right behind the forest, close to Karchev, and then gives the Widowmaker Marksman Eyeless Sight. His Widowmaker Marksman then shoots through the Acid Cloud, targeting one of my Griever Swarm models, and then kills it instantly with his special Snipe ability and High Wrath, and then activates Swift Hunter to move back 2 inches. His Road to War then triggers, and he moves up the Devastator 3 inches, and then activates it and runs him 8 inches right behind the Acid Cloud. Archie then activates his Juggernaut and runs him up to the forest. Thankfully, Jaws of the Wolf gives his Jacks Pathfinder, which is very much appreciated for Khador Warjacks and their slow speed. Archie then activates his Widowmaker Scouts. This is a sped up version, but I think he was trying to look for lines of sight to my Nicaea and my Stalker, but with the wall in the way, he didn't want to risk wasting shots, so I think he just positioned his Widowmakers in order to claim the flag, not necessarily claim, but contest it and prepare for future shots. So he moves them up and spreads them out onto the 2 forests, one the natural one from the table, and then the 2 of them on the other side, the one with his free forest from the peak. So, sorry, 2 of his Widowmakers are on the middle of forest, so rather. So he just passes his turn. He just passes his activation and goes with his next model. He activates the Marauder and runs him up the board, going to the forest on the right. His bring in forest on the right hand side of the table. He then moves Old Grim as his last model and runs him up the board, uh, coming in base to base with the flag hidden in his forest. Here, looking at the footage now, I realize again I am playing it very badly. So, turn 2 begins. I let failsafe fall off. That's the first mistake. And then I allocate one focused stalker. But I think I have a reason for why I did that playing this. My first activation begins with the scrap trolls, and I move them up the board. I do the first scrap troll and move him right behind the acid cloud. And then the other scrap trolls follow suit, me leaving one of these scrap trolls right beside the flag. Now looking at this, I realize that I could have charged the Devastator or the Widowmaker Marksman. Rather than charge, run up to the Widowmaker Scouts, not Marksman, and then just block them from moving or firing. That would have been a smarter move. I then activate Master Girdlepox, and I know I want to cast Curse of Shadows through him with Mortenebra. So I try to find a position where I can see the Devastator. So I move him 10 inches up the board, right into the circle zone, the lower circle zone. I then activate the Strike, and then fly him up the board, down to the lower circle zone. I keep him away from the Devastator's threat range, knowing Archie has Road to War, and then some other speed tricks. I know that his charge range is around 10 inches rather than the normal 8, if I'm not mistaken. I then activate Elaine on Elaine 2. I move him into command range, and this is the first time I'm using him, so this is the first time I've learned his abilities. So please correct me if I'm wrong. One of the options was I was going to use one of his abilities and take away Pathfinder from the Juggernaut so that I could leave it high and dry. But Archie and I discussed, we weren't sure if the Warjack counts would be able. The Warjack is affected by that ability. I'll put up the name in the screen right now. I forget the exact names of the abilities. So either way, I just changed my mind because we were unsure about the rules, and then used Shadow on the Devastator, which I think is one of the greatest abilities in Elaine, because that it doesn't say how often I can trigger it. So we played it that anytime it moves, anyone in Elaine's command range would be able to advance. So it helps me play keep away with my units. Next up, I move the Stalker and move him close to the Shrike. The Shrike didn't land onto the circle zone exactly. I want to clear out the words I'm using. So I move him 12 inches away from the Juggernaut, pretty close to where the Shrike is. I then activate the Slayer and move him up to the flag. I know this is one of the. I'm setting up a charge turn. I know I have to get rid of the Devastator and the Juggernaut if they ever move closer. At this point, when I was playing, I didn't realize that Master Girdlepox was within threat range. So with the shadows on Devastator, I realized that I could play keep away. Once he moves Devastator, I would be able to run away with Girdlepox, and I was hoping that he would trigger Road to War so that I could do that. So either way, I'm ready for debate. I end the activation for Slayer. So I then activate Mortenebra, and I realize this is where I'm stupid. So I allocated one focus onto the Stalker. And then you'll see in the next couple of turns that I actually forget to activate it. So I am down one focus, which I could have spent to cast Curse of Shadows onto the Devastator, but I did. But since I was stupid, I was only able to cast the Arcanatric Bolt, and I tried boosting it to deal more damage, but with his extremely high armor, that did nothing. So I leave Morty with I just cast Failsafe again on the that Slayer, and like I said, it's a waste of focus. It's mismanaged. This is why you read your cards, folks. So either way, yeah, I move her up the board so that I don't get kill boxed, and then end her activation. I have to correct myself. I didn't let Failsafe fall off during allocation. Again, I'm sorry. It's at this point it's been a week. I did not have a lot of time to edit this previously, so I'm forgetting a lot of things. So yeah, Failsafe was upkept. So yeah, then I activate the Griever Swarms and spread them out up the board, trying to keep at least one of them 3 inches with any of my jacks, except the Stalker. So then I think I try and shoot with a combined ranged attack, targeting one of the Widowmakers, but I miss because of the extremely high depth, especially with the Widowmakers in the forest. Archie's turn 2 begins, and he allocates 2 focus to the Devastator, spending 1 to shake off the stationary that I gave him from Arcanatric Bolt. I think that was a very good move on my part. At least I made him waste 1 focus. So he also lets Arcanatric Turbine fall off, and then he begins his activations with the Greylord Adjunct and moves it closer to the Widowmaker Marksman and gives it Eyeless Sight. His Widowmaker Marksman kills one of the what they call that, scrap thralls, and then triggers Road to War, and he uses it to move the Devastator 3 inches closer to my Gurgle Fox, which then triggers the Shadow from Elaine, enabling me to move Gurgle Fox 7 inches away. Next up, Archie runs the Marauder up the board to to contest the Circle Zone, and then threaten a assassination onto Mortenebra. Archie then activates Karchev, moves him into the center of the forest, making sure that he has enough room for the Widowmakers to run to the left-hand side of the field. I think he wants to swing his focus from the right-hand circle zone onto the left-hand circle zone. With nothing else to charge, the Devastator charges the Scrap Thrall on the far end of the circle zone and kills it. He spends 1 focus charge and another to boost his attack. So that gives him control over the lower left-hand circle zone. So I think this is why he was proxying the movements for the Widowmakers. Since he killed my Scrap Thrall with the Devastator, his Road to War triggers, and he moves the Juggernaut 3 inches up the board, and then my Elaine Runewood uses Shadow to keep himself out of charge range from the Juggernaut. We're not sure if we did the activations correctly, but I think this was, since he was the active player, he had first opportunity to use his Road to War before I could use Elaine's Shadow. And again, we're not completely sure if Shadow works this way. If anyone is watching, do please tell us if we were doing it wrong. Write it down on comments down below. Thanks. It helps us give you better battle reports. Archie then activates the Widowmaker Scouts and then goes for objective rather than attrition and runs them all up to the circle zone and finally claiming it. Next up, Archie activates Old Grim, and this is where I realized that I didn't move my Stalker in the previous turn. So I was hoping that I could just at least move him 7 inches and then jump and then make an attack, killing one of the Widowmakers or the Old Rib. But since I forgot, this gave Archie 2 points at the end of turn 2. So my turn 3 begins, and I know this is my peak turn. So I allocate 1 focus onto the Shrike, the Scavenger, and the Stalker, and just power up with the what they call that, Stalker. So yeah, again, 1 focus to the Shrike, the Scavenger, and the Stalker, and then just a power up on the Stalker. So I activate Mortenebra first. I pop her feet, and I channel Curse of Shadows on from Gurglepox, targeting the Devastator. I keep Mortenebra there because I know I have Shadow, and I will be able to run away or avoid any potential threats once I activate Elaine. I start off with Gurglepox. His special ability lets me get an extra dice on to deal damage onto constructs. So I was hoping I could get him to deal a lot of damage, but sadly I rolled very poorly. I was hoping to deal more than 1 damage, but at least the 1 damage helped, and I know that would give the bonus dice onto the Scavenger. I then activate the Shrike and declare a charge onto the Devastator, but sadly, since Gurglepox is not a Jack, the Shrike does not benefit from Mortenebra's feet, so I just deal another couple of points of damage onto the Devastator. Next, I activate the Scavenger. I was hoping to actually kill the Devastator on this turn with, doing 5 dice for damage. Charge plus the finisher plus the feat, so that gives me an extra 3 dice to damage. He's fully loaded with 3 focus thanks to the accumulator special effect, but sadly I didn't do enough damage and leave the Devastator at 2 points. So this was a hard doing my next activation was a hard decision. So I activate the Stalker next. I was hoping that the Scavenger would have killed the Devastator, so I could have charged the Juggernaut with my Stalker, and at least that would have been a good roadblock. I would have probably also crippled at least 1 system onto the Juggernaut, but the things didn't pan out well, so I had to use the fully focused Stalker and kill the Devastator. Because if I didn't kill that, I know that Archie would be able to do a lot more damage, even with a lot of crippled systems. Next up, I activate the Stalker, and I did what I should have done a turn ago, which is to run and contest the opposing flag. Next up, I activate Lane 2, move him onto the far end of the circle zone. I know I am within the Juggernaut's threat range, but I still give him shadows because I want Mortenebra to live. I then activate the Griever Swarms and push them forward. I'm trying to claim one of the objectives, but there's a lot of contesting models right now, so I just opt to move them up and try to do 2 series of combined range attacks. I managed to kill one of the Widowmaker scouts and then miss the other a shot and fail to kill the second Widowmaker scout. Lastly, I activate Nicaea 2. Here's another mistake I've realized. I could have just run her up the board just so that I have another contesting unit for the flag. It would have at least given Archie a lot more choices, make his life harder. And if you look at the clock, I'm actually dead at this point. It was because I had to read a lot of my cards on Warmachine University. Because like I mentioned, this is not an army or a faction that I've actually played ever. So I would have been dead this turn actually, but since this is a practice game, this is something so that I could learn, and then Archie would also help with the content onto the battle for creating the battle reports. We push forward, and then we continue the game. Archie's turn 3 begins, and he allocates 2 focus onto the Juggernaut, 1 focus onto the Brother, and he keeps 2 focus on himself, upkeeping Road to War. Then he activates the Prelord Adjunct, moves him to the Circle Zone, and gives Karchev Eyeless Sight. So with Eyeless Sight, Karchev is able to charge my Stalker past the cloud, and then we were thinking that the Stalker would be dead here, but Archie rolled terribly, and he only dealt 5 points of damage onto the Stalker. Archie then activates the Widowmaker Scouts and uses one of them to kill one of my Griever Swarms, which triggers his Road to War, and he moves the Juggernaut to the board. His other Widowmaker declares a shot targeting Gurglefox, and he deals a fair bit of damage onto him. Archie then activates Old Grim and kills Nicaea with his first shot, which triggers Road to War. His Marauder then moves backwards onto moving his front arc. He is now able to see the Stalker, and I know at this point he's ready to charge it. So with going back to Old Grim, he Swift Hunters forward, and then my Elaine Runewood triggers. He moves, if I'm not mistaken, 0.1 inches away from the Old Grim so that he wouldn't be able to shoot him. Archie wouldn't be able to shoot Elaine. So Archie uses his next shot and picks off one of the Griever monsters. So now Archie activates the Marauder and declares a charge onto the Stalker. So this is again where we are not sure about the rules, since it didn't say how far the Juggernaut had to be for shadows to be active. So when he charged the Stalker, I used Elaine Runewood's shadow ability to move Mortenebra and claim the circle zone. And then Archie's finishes the activation for the Marauder and kills the Stalker in a couple of shots. Archie then charges the, if I'm not mistaken, Shrike, and then deals a fair bit of that. Sorry, not the Shrike, the Scavenger. He deals a fair bit of damage onto it. He then makes an attack at Gurglefox and misses. Gurglefox's dodge ability triggers. He moves out of the way so that he's no longer targetable by other attacks. And then Archie uses the rest of his attacks and deals a lot of damage onto the Stalker. So this is terrible for me since his axe did a crit, causing the Stalker to be frozen, and then the rest of his damage actually does a lot, cripples my left arm, my right arm, and most importantly, my cortex, preventing me to power up the next turn. My turn 4 begins, and I know the only way for me to win here is with an assassination. But then I realize that I don't have enough dudes. The Stalker is dead. Even if he wasn't crippled, even if I had failsafe, I wouldn't be able to move close enough to Karchev to actually deal anything to him. The Scavenger's head is broken, so I have 1 less dice to damage. The Shrike is the only thing left to do something, but he doesn't have enough attacks. Gurglefox would have been my greatest weapon, so I just upkeep Curse of Shadows on. No, sorry, I don't upkeep Curse of Shadows. I'm looking at Curse of Shadows and hoping that it's enough to deal to kill Karchev. So I allocate 0 focus onto my jacks, put them all on Mortenebra. Prepare. So here we go. I start off with Mortenebra with full focus, 7 if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check. Yep. And then first thing I do is channel Curse of Shadows from Gurglefox. Oh no, I don't necessarily need to do that, but I think I still did. So either way, I channel, I boost to hit just to make sure it hits. I think that was a mistake on my part because I don't No, yeah, I think I needed to because of the cloud. So either way, I charge with Mortenebra. She has 4 focus left. No, I don't boost. I realize she has 7 focus. I'm looking at it. She's down to 4. So Curse of Shadow hits. I charge with Mortenebra. I don't deal enough damage. I think at the end of all the attacks, Karchev is left with 26 life. So I'm hoping Girdlepox could do something. So next, I activate my Girdlepox. He declares a charge. He did well, but not well enough. I think with 4 dice to damage on the charge, uh, Karchev was left with 13 life. Uh, I don't remember the exact math, but this is how I'm looking at it. I know with each of my unit activations, victory goes slips further and further away from. I then activate the strike, and the only option available to me is declare a charge because that enables me to avoid free strikes from the Juggernaut. I trample onto the Juggernaut and move past Karchev, doing more trample damage to him. But I think the strike whips, and I only deal 1 point of damage. So I then just activate the scavenger and make my attacks onto the Juggernaut. Surprisingly, it deals a fair bit of damage, but not enough to actually be relevant. So here I'm just hoping for a potential objective victory if Archie whips. So I activate the Griever Swarms and move them up onto the uncontested objective. I then activate Elaine Runewood, run him up the board, contesting his Archie's defending flag. So Archie's turn 4 begins, and we are now at 3-3 thanks to Elaine Runewood contesting Archie's defending flag and the Griever Swarms claiming the the open objective. But at this point, it's not relevant. I mean, the objective is not relevant. We're both looking at caster kills for victory. So Archie's assassination run begins. He starts off with Old Grim and shoots Elaine Runewood off the board, triggering Road to War so that his Juggernaut could move 3 inches closer. And I think that's where I would lose, as the Juggernaut is fully powered. He is at 3 focus. Archie then activates the Juggernaut, declares a charge on Mortenebra, and I don't think we need to do the math, but he does enough damage to kill Morty on 1 or 2 strikes, I think. And we end with an assassination victory for Karchev. So let's move on. So post-game thoughts. This is a pretty fun game. I've finally tried an army that I've always wanted to try. It's technically a 2-for-1 since I'm playing both cryx and Infernals. So I was using, as I mentioned earlier, I was using the list provided by Line of Sight. I will put links down in the description. And I pretty much enjoyed what I played. I lost, but I think it was a great learning experience. It was something very different. Do I think I could have played better? Hell yes. There's a lot of things I didn't know, a lot of activations that I had to read and reread again. If you look at the clock, both me and Archie are actually dead by clock. But obviously, I would have died, I think, turn 3 because of clock. And again, that goes into the reason for that is because I was reading the cards as I was playing. We were playing with the clock because I believe the clock helps people think faster, think better. We learn to manage our turns better. We learn to live with our mistakes and play around it rather than beat ourselves up. So here, I think if I did a lot of things, I used more of my units better, I would have won. Like I said, I wasted a lot of focus onto the Stalker, which I didn't activate after 2. I let the Fatal Safe fall off. I could have used the Scrap Thralls better to block charge lanes, to harass, to deny objectives. But yeah, this is a learning experience. I think people would enjoy. I don't know what else to say. If you watch the video up to this point, please do tell me what I could have done better. Also, remember, please tell me how you would like me to present battle reports in the future. Anything helps. I'm doing this on my own with that. Aside from help, my friends playing with me through War Table. Uh, I hope you enjoy the battle report. I'm going to try and play more games and then find more time to edit. I know I'm releasing this video late. I was hoping to release this early this week, but things didn't pan out. So yeah, uh, please do like, comment, and subscribe.